who had a TIA earlier this year or a mini stroke. And Francis, you're going to share your personal story and journey of recovery this morning.
Yes, thanks, Mim. Good morning. Yes, in February, in fact, I had a TIA, which is a transient ischemic attack, essentially a short blocking off of the blood to the brain. And it's all the symptoms of a normal stroke, but just lasting a few minutes. So you get the drooping face, the weakness on one side. Quite scary, really, particularly when you can't speak. And so that was one Saturday evening back in February. It was quite scary. After being diagnosed, I started to do nothing like a medical emergency to sort of get you through research, and I started to look at all the research in that area. And one of the things that I found was the need to get going as soon as quickly with oxygen to the brain and just physical exercise.
So your initial physical reaction and mental reaction, can you talk us through what it was like? What was happening in your mind after a mini stroke or a TIA?
You go into a sort of an emergency situation, but the next day I seem to remember going to Woolworths on the way back from the hospital, and I wasn't driving the car, of course, but Vicky was walking around the shops, and I was wandering around the supermarket wondering what I was doing there. There was definitely a brain fog that first day, so very fuzzy and couldn't concentrate on anything. And that was scary for me too, because I'm used to sort of being able to read and research and so forth.
So there's these changes in the way your mind is working. Is memory a part of that?
Absolutely. I found in the first week, in the first few days, in fact, I did go to the shops a couple of times. I wasn't driving, but 3-4 items I'd be writing. I kept looking at the list. I kept reading the list and looking backwards and forwards. Wasn't really remembering anything clearly. And then, as I said, I started to research. I started deep breathing. We started to walk the dog, Alice's dog, my daughter, and just started to think about all those things. As your doctor earlier said about alcohol, cutting back on salt and sugar. I did all those diet things, and that made a difference, I think, over time. But the main thing was to get out of this feeling of just a fuzzy head. And so one of the first things I did, in fact, that week was to join a TIA group online. It's a UK group. I'm now a moderator of that group. And it had about 2,000 members. It's nearly 3,000 members now. So one of the things I found was quite alarming was the numbers of younger people, post-stroke and post-TIA, that were in this group and complaining of similar things, particularly short-term memory loss.
So short-term memory and mental fog. These things are happening. And fear.
A little bit of fear in that they feel... I would say, nothing against the medical profession, but there's great care during the event, if you like, but you're essentially given meds and sent on your way. And I think people are just left floating as to what's wrong with me, what happened, how did this happen, and then, particularly if you lose speech. Mine was a left-sided Broca region which controls speech, and the right side, so I had that right hand droop and this not being able to speak, and that's a scary thing when you're trying to get the words out. And I see a lot of this, and perhaps that's most of the cases. And so people are in a group asking questions. It's not really a medical group. There's not really medical advice, and I certainly don't give medical advice, but it's scary. People are looking for some similar experiences and support. And perhaps, yes, one of the complaints is that they just don't know what happened, and they're still yet to get answers. They've had the MRA, they've had the CT scan, in most cases perhaps not even showing up, particularly if they had it days later. So that was my case.
Your physical and your mind, the way it's coping now, the TIA or mini stroke only happened at the start of the year.
Yes.
Have you recovered fully, would you say?
I'd say pretty much. Well, who knows what's going on inside the head, but in my mind, I've just really worked at it. One of the things that I had a fractured skull 50 years ago, and so that was bad timing for me. I was trying to get into university, so at that particular time, with similar memory issues, and I've been here before, I
So that was a motorbike accident?
A motorbike accident, yes. Fractured skull, 2 weeks in hospital, and I had some memory issues. I think some brain damage, but certainly that single heavy concussion. Those are the days, trendy, no helmet, sort of sunglasses, modern rockers. That's a long time ago. And so you can imagine at 70 kilometres an hour being thrown off your bike, it's quite a bump on the head.
So you're an advocate of safe motorbike
I am
riding.
today.
Yes.
I am today. But so that having been there before, it didn't suit me to lose this memory right now. So I looked into this. Fortunately, I had to develop a memory system going back to those days, and it took me through university. It took me through my whole professional career. And so having that to fall back on, and most of us don't really have that. It's as if we're just stuck with the memory that we think we're stuck with the memory, at least, that it's a great memory belongs to the gifted few. So from my viewpoint, no, I had this to fall back on, and I really started to get into it, started remembering shopping lists, 5, 10, 15, 25 items.
You can remember 25 items on a
Yes.
shopping list.
36 was
Wow.
I think, the last trip.
If you've just joined us, we're speaking to Francis Fitzgerald from Yarram, who had a mini stroke at the start of the year and is kind enough to come in and just share some of your experience with us and your personal story with us on ABC Gippsland this morning. My name's Mim. Francis, you had this motorbike accident 50 years ago, a mini stroke now. Both times you have been able to work with your memory to build it up again. And you,
Yes.
at the most, have remembered 36 things off a shopping list. There's no way I would be able to remember 36 things off a shopping list.
No.
How do you train your brain to do that?
Well, it's more of a system, really. It's everybody understands that a picture paints 1,000 words. So the whole trick of memory training is associating pictures, and particularly if you like creative and exaggerated pictures in your mind with whatever you're trying to remember. So there is a system.
You don't just write down the word cornflakes and look at it. You think of...
There is an image that you would
cornflakes.
create. And I have something called a key list, and I can go up to 100, 900, and remember those items. It's quite a bit of thing. In fact, one of the things that inspired me when I saw so many people struggling with their memories, I put together a training course. I thought, well, I can't stop here now. I see so many people around me that are struggling in the same way. So I have a website. I've put together some courses. I've only just started to help people, if you like, literally train. It's a conditioning of your memory to actually start to put things in a different order, things that we've never done in our lives normally. But I'm lucky enough, if you'd call a fractured skull lucky, to be able to actually put that in place. And today I'm using that, and I've been lucky enough to fall back on that, and now I'm using it to remember anything from remembering names, like you need in business. But I think mostly just remembering things in the right order.
What's your trick for remembering someone's name when you meet them? You're at a busy event, you meet someone, names are flying around. Do you remember them all?
There are different methods. I personally use just an associative mental image of someone else that I know of that name, and I imagine those two people with their arms around each other.
Right,
It's a very
so
simple
really
one.
visual imagining
Yes.
helps memory.
Sometimes if I've not known that name, it might have a sound-alike name. So I would think of something, and it sounds like that name.
John O'Kendall is on the radio.